wanted to give you a brief breakdown on the fights last night. The Canelo versus William Scull undercard, and the Canelo versus William Scull fight. So this will be very brief because I have to get to stepping. So Canelo versus William Scull. What we noticed is that a lot of fighters over this weekend use boxing. They actually box. It wasn't a bang fest. It wasn't a brawl fest. It was a boxing. It was a boxing fight. And William Scull, who comes from the Cuban school of boxing, used his feet quite a lot in that ring. And Canelo had a lot of difficulty cutting off the ring on him. The ring general was William Scull. He did whatever he wanted. The right hand landed. Of course, William Scull is not a guy with earth-shattering power. Canelo couldn't really land much of anything on William Scull. And I would say that William Scull outboxed Canelo Alvarez. But even though he outboxed Canelo Alvarez, he could have done way much more. What I mean by that is, when, for example, Canelo swung and missed at him and hit the ropes because he got out of the way of the punch, and he was now had Canelo with his back against the ropes, he never really took the initiative of attacking Canelo at that point in time. And William Scull looked like he could do whatever he wanted in there against Canelo. But to me, just my personal opinion, I thought that he, and I know his work rate is like 30 punches a round, okay? But I felt like he could have done a lot more. He did make, in the trades, when Canelo would land a body shot, he would land an uppercut or a left hook with Canelo or something like that. But obviously, William Scull is a very good boxer. Excellent boxer, like I said before. I predicted that there would be no knockout. I told you guys that. I thought that William Scull would make it difficult for Canelo. He did. He frustrated Canelo and all. I think Canelo even flung him down or something like that. I didn't see a knockout coming because I saw what William Scull was capable of. I told you he was very athletic. I told you Cuban school of boxing, and he really showed all of that. The only problem is he didn't really land that many punches. He threw a lot of jabs to maintain range, to keep distance, to find out where he was, to give a feeler, to keep Canelo's hands at home. He had an answer for the hook. I told you his right hand would land, and his right hand did land a couple times in the fight against Canelo. He's quite an accurate fighter. He just has a low punch output. And Canelo could never cut off the ring. He couldn't find a way to get William Scull in the corner. And even when he sort of backed him in the corner, William Scull just easily spun out of there, really easily. And so it's kind of unfortunate that the judges scored it for Canelo. And they had a wide margin there where like 119, 109 or something like that. And I couldn't see it. I thought that William Scull outboxed Canelo. I thought William Scull should have won the fight because the fight that happened was his fight. It was his type of fight. Canelo was fighting his fight. I thought he was the ring general in there. Even though Canelo landed probably the harder punches, he never really cleanly caught William Scull with anything. He was either blocking or moving out of the way of the punch already. William Scull was hardly getting hit with anything. And then on top of that, William Scull would counter Canelo. Whenever he countered, he actually hit Canelo flush. So I'm wondering what the judges were looking at. Maybe they were looking at the tactics that William Scull was having, that Canelo was the aggressor. Maybe that's what they were looking at, but I'm not quite sure. Even though Canelo was the aggressor, I wouldn't say that he was... I think William Scull was actually outpointing Canelo. I think he was outlanding Canelo. I don't know how these judges were thinking. All right? I don't know how they were thinking in the back of their heads about the fight. That's the thing. So, but I thought that Canelo, he actually won the fight. I'm sorry. I thought William Scull actually won the fight. And maybe I'm the only person out there that believes that, but I didn't. I turned off the commentary so I could watch the fight because the commentators were they were kissing Canelo's butt majorly. And, I thought that William Scull actually was doing some really great work in there. in terms of footwork, in terms of positioning, in terms of how he was changing levels, popping his jab. He was even able to thread the needle. He landed a couple right hands to the body and to the head of Canelo, something that Canelo wasn't used to, without Canelo getting you back. I mean, it wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but I thought William Scull actually won that fight. Just like I thought Jermaine Ortiz clearly beat Teofimo Lopez. I think William Scull, once again, I thought he clearly beat Canelo. And if, Canelo needed to cut down the distance, sell out sometimes, just close the distance on William Scull, take a punch or two, and get in there. That's what he had to do. He had to commit to that. And he tried to do it desperately in round 12, and it really was to no avail. He tried to throw really heavy punches. That didn't work. The other thing, William Scull was maintaining range very well. He's fighting from the outside. Teofimo Lopez employed the same thing, but he sit down more, trade more, and counter. So Teofimo was excessively moving around the ring. William Scull was moving around the ring a lot. Devin Haney was moving around the ring a lot. But then again, it's a fight, and whatever strategy you employ to win, it is what it is. People were saying that Canelo needed to get to William Scull's body. Easier said than done. When a guy is measuring you and keeping a certain distance, it doesn't matter what you do. And the fact that certain guys are really, I'm going to be real with you guys, certain guys are just really difficult to fight because they're really good at respecting distance. Shakur Stevenson, and they know how to move around the ring. They know how to spin out of certain situations, bounce out of certain situations, pivot out of certain situations. And so as a result of that, it's very hard to fight certain fighters. And the style that was employed by William Scull, Canelo got the decision, but really and truly, I don't think he should have won that fight. I think William Scull should have won the fight because Canelo couldn't hit him. And he was hitting Canelo and flush, clean shots. He wasn't as powerful as Canelo, but he was hitting Canelo with flush, clean shots. And his poker face was on point. Canelo never once hurt this guy in the fight, right? Never, not even once. Devin Haney, same thing. Jose Ramirez just could not get to him. Ramirez couldn't get to Devin Haney, and that's what happens. Now, how do you deal with such fighters? I'm going to give you a little secret about these fighters and how you deal with them. So, if you're a pressure fighter, and these guys are moving away from you, what you have to do is turn into a boxer and let the fighters come to you. In other words, you now have to play possum, and you have to start backing off. And when you back off, they'll advance. You have to back yourself into the ropes and set traps for them. That's how you do it. Okay? So a lot of times, you go in there being the bull, they'll be the matador, and they'll do that whole night. What Ryan Garcia did to Devin Haney, got in his head, got him to try and goad him into fighting him. And then you have to literally back off and not pressure these guys and let them feel like they're walking you down and stuff. I saw Sean Porter do that to Adrian Broner. I saw Ryan Garcia do that to Devin Haney. I saw Canelo do it to James Kirkland, even though James Kirkland wasn't a boxer type. Now, boxer types, the other thing about them is they know range really well. So even if they're pursuing you, they're always trying to keep at a safe distance where they can be out of range. But nonetheless, that's what you have to do. You have to goad them into it. And then you have to do something like what's his name? I can't remember his name. If I could just remember his name, the kid that fought Devin Haney after Jose Linares, I can't remember his name right now. But you have to goad them into fighting you. If you goad them into fighting you, that's how you get them. That's how you get to set traps for them and stuff. And that's how. And once you hurt them, then you can do your pressure fighting thing and go full throttle. So Canelo, he didn't do that against William Scull. Jose Ramirez, he didn't do that against Devin Haney. And so that's why the fight went the way it went. You have to back up and start backing yourself up into the ropes. And yes, the ropes is not a place you want to be. And yes, they could be dangerous because they're, skilled boxers, but you want them walking you down. You want them chasing you. You shouldn't be chasing them. And for too many times, pressure fighters are not smart enough to change up their game and decide, all right, let me let this guy come after me, because they only have one way of fighting. Look at Rolly Romero, what he did with Ryan Garcia. At points in time, in fact, Rolly Romero was able to counter Ryan Garcia with the double left hook because Rolly baited Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia was on the offensive. He was kind of coming at him, and he was baiting him with the jab, because he knew he wanted to come with the right hand over the jab. So he was baiting him in, and then when Ryan threw the left hook, that's when he threw his combinations. Threw a right hand and a double left hook. The first left hook caught Ryan Garcia. The second one just knocked him off balance, but by that time had gotten his guard back in place. But his equilibrium was off, so by the time he got hit again with the second one, he was, and Raleigh punches hard. But the point is, what set up that is Ryan moving into Raleigh, becoming aggressive and coming after Raleigh. And this is a very important thing to understand. Most knockouts happen because the other guy runs into something. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a pressure fighter, you're already doing the opposite of what should be done. You could get yourself in trouble running into something instead. I'm listening to different people talk about Devin Haney stunk up the thing and this stunk up that. Listen, stop that shit. Okay? Did Devin Haney move excessively? Absolutely. It wasn't necessary for him to move that much. Did William Scull move as much as Devin Haney? No. William Scull actually moved less than Devin Haney. And Devin Haney seemed a lot more hyped up. William Scull seemed more composed and ready. And it looked like William Scull was doing whatever he wanted in there, right? So most of you, because a lot of you don't understand boxing, a lot of you are going to say, oh, well, William Scull, he lost because he didn't really throw anything and blah, 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 blah. And that's not true, right? Did he throw a lot? No. Could he have done more? Absolutely. He was in a position to do more, and he just didn't. And that's probably the mentality, Cuban style of boxing, and not an extremely aggressive fighter. He had moments where he could have capitalized on Canelo being on the defensive. Not to say that Canelo wouldn't have dodged and ducked and weaved some of the punches that he would throw, but nonetheless. The bottom of the line for the main event was all the weekend fights were boxing was more what you were seeing. Guys were using their feet, they were using their hands, they were using movement to get what they had to do. Even Raleigh and Ryan, Raleigh was using boxing. He wasn't selling out. He wasn't trying to just bang, And now, having said that, most of the fighters that we saw in the fights were fighting from the outside or mid-range. The only fight I can say where you saw some inside fighting was Badou Jack versus hold on a second. Let me see if I can remember the guy's name. Badou Jack versus Noel Mikaeliian. I gotta say this though. That fight was razor close in my opinion. A lot of people think that Badou Jack won. The judges gave it to Badou Jack 115-113 with one judge giving it 114-114. I thought it was razor close. I thought Noel Mikaeliian did a great job. Now, in terms of who was more effective, I think Badou Jack was more effective. Badou Jack was significantly smaller than Noel Mikaeliian. Noel Mikaeliian, though, has a great jab. He had a fantastic jab. He threw lovely combinations. He had a lot of variety in his shots. He was the more active fighter. He might have even outlanded Badou Jack in the fight. However, Badou Jack was more effective because when Badou Jack was coming forward and he pressed the action, he was landing a lot of body shots. And you could literally see Mikaeliian sucking air to keep going in the fight. And you could see him tiring out as Badou Jack was breaking him down. The other thing is the aggressor in this fight for most of the fight was Badou Jack. He was the one. He would take a lot of punches on the gloves. He blocked most of the punches he got hit with. But, of course, Mikaeliian caught him with some beautiful jabs, some beautiful right hands. The dude, he has a hell of a right hand. The thing about it is, though, he fights better at range where he's the bigger guy, he's the longer guy. He really does great at range, but you can see he's not very comfortable on the inside. And Badu did a great job on the inside. He was, even in clinches, he would be, pounding at Mikaelian midsection and stuff, and finding leverage to use shots. Not to say that Mikaelian's, he's no slouch on the inside either. And he throws these beautiful combinations, all kinds of different. I thought this fight should have been a draw. I thought it should have been a draw because I thought that Mikaelian put out an amazing effort. And not only that, but I thought he was answering everything Badu was doing most of the time. There were times when Badu was not being answered. And then there were times when Mikaelian, he would throw things that Badu couldn't answer. So I thought that, and of course, Badu was a smaller guy. But the impressive thing about the whole thing was Badu was the guy that was the aggressor. He was the guy that was pushing Mikaelian back. Not to say that Mikaelian wasn't landing some real good stuff. He was landing some good stuff on Badu. Badu took those shots, man, and kept coming. And Mikaelian's a hell of a fighter. This guy, I understand why he's a world champion. And, unfortunately for him, he seems to never get the benefit of the doubt. But this dude, man, he got hard. He up down to the final bell. Badu did land the last punch. It was a tremendous right hand. But I'm just saying that, Noah Mikaelian, you just got a new fan. I'm a fan of this dude. I never heard of him. And when I saw him fight, that dude can fight. He can freaking fight, bro. He can fight. And what a performance he put on. It's sad to see that he lost that fight because he didn't lose that fight. In my opinion, he put on a hell of a performance, as did Badu Jack, by the way. Badu Jack the Ripper, hell of a performance. The only guy that ever, I think, slept him was Porgy or Piggy or whatever the guy's name was, Porky or whatever. And that was because Badu didn't warm up properly, Badu could take a punch. Badu's a hell of a fighter. 41 years old. 41 years old. Okay? So a hell of an achievement for Badu Jack. But I thought Mikaelian was in that fight all the way down to the wire, and I thought they should have given that fight a draw. I know people have been disappointed with it, but you couldn't do that to Mikaelian. I think he worked too hard. He fought so hard in that fight. And yeah, he was sucking it up because Badu was beating that body down. You know what I'm saying? But because he's so big as well, Badu couldn't really get him out of there. And plus, it was difficult for Badu to even cut down the distance to fight him. They were fighting in the pocket, and he knew how to tie up and everything. This dude was a complete fighter, man. And that matchup was incredible. At the end, I thought that either they would give it to Mikaelian or they would give it to Badu by split decision. It turned out to be majority decision because, one judge had it a draw. Even though I was saying Badu might win, in the back of my mind, I was like, man, I think Mikaelian beat this guy. I was saying that too. I was biased towards Badu. I wanted Badu to win. But really and truly, man, that was one freaking hell of a fight, man. That was a hell of a fight. The other fight was not as intriguing, but it was intriguing in the sense of how Jaime Mungia had so much more discipline when he was fighting Bruno Surace. Bruno Surace had knocked out Jaime Mungia the first time around. And Jaime learned his lesson. And some brutal shots by Jaime Mungia in that fight. But nonetheless, Bruno Surace was right there with him as well. Very tactical fight. When it was explosive, it was explosive. Jaime Mungia had a lot of respect for Bruno Surace. It was a great fight. Bruno Surace was tiring, though, coming down the stretch. From those body punches from Jaime Mungia. Even though a lot of the body punches Surace was blocking, it still took something out of him, you could see. Mungia was really putting leverage in those punches, particularly the body punches. Surace was more, again, with the right hand. He caught Mungia flush with one of the right hands, really hard like that. But again, now I didn't really agree with the judges' scorecards in that I thought it was a close fight. And I thought Mungia should have won a split decision. I did think he won. So they got that right. But I think that that was a pretty good fight as well. So, when you look at the Friday night fights, which had Teofimo Lopez versus Why can't I not remember his name for nothing? Anyway, the guy that's Arnold Barbosa. I heard Timothy Bradley going in on Arnold Barbosa, and blah 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 blah. Listen, Arnold Barbosa did what he was supposed to do. That was Arnold Barbosa. He was Arnold Barbosa. His defense was pretty much on point. It's just that Teal had more tools in the tool bag, and he showed it. I mean, no shame on Arnold Barbosa. He fought his ass off. It just wasn't good enough for Teal. Teal was better at it. And there's no other explanation for that. And I thought it was a good fight for Teal. I thought it turned out really well. I thought Teal would have lose to Arnold Barbosa. I was wrong. That's the only fight I got wrong for the weekend, but nonetheless, I was wrong. You know what I mean? So anyway, I just want to wrap that up right there. Arnold Barbosa versus Teofimo Lopez. Good fight, solid fight for Teo. Made him look really good. Took his stock up. Teo was having fun in there, like he said. Treading the needle. Counter punching. Moving around the ring. It was beautiful stuff. Boxing. He boxed him, and he did a great job. So I was listening to Timothy Bradley trying to go into some people, and some other people going to some other people. Like, I saw different people going in on Devin Haney. Devin Haney did what he needed to do to win. Okay, you're not in there in the ring with these fighters. If they choose to do whatever, you have to counter it. And it was up to Jose Ramirez to figure out a way to take that game away from Devin Haney, right? To get Devin Haney out of his element. And as I said before, a smarter thing that Jose Ramirez should have done, as soon as he realized pursuing Devin Haney wasn't working, should have just stayed in the center of the ring, let Devin Haney come to him, and then start backing up and going towards the ropes. You have to bait these guys in. Use your jab. You're using your jab steadily, pouring, touching his lead hand, his backhand. You're touching the hands, and you're stepping back, and you're stepping him into their trap. That's what you have to do with these guys. You can't be chasing them down all night. That ain't gonna work. The guys, they're too dexterous. They have too good a footwork for you to even try to do that. You have to use a different game plan. And that's the thing with these different fighters. They don't know how to fight different ways. When you have versatility, you can fight different ways. So you could change up your style. You could change up your approach. Can't just be one style, one approach, and then say, oh, they were running. Oh, the fight is boring because he made it boring. Just stop that. Stop that. That's making excuses. That's being a crybaby. Okay? It's boxing. You have to figure out a way to win. All right? If a guy, he got more power than you got to figure out a way to neutralize his power. If a guy, he's fleet of foot, and you just can't keep up with him because your feet are too slow, you have to figure out a way to take that away from him. And if you can't land body punches because you're way too slow for him, then you have to start setting traps for him, which means you now have to try and escape him. He has to be the hunter. You have to be the prey. And you have to be able to spring traps. And there's no versatility in boxing. That's the problem. The other thing that Jose Ramirez and Canelo Alvarez didn't do, even though Canelo tried to, you have to close the distance, and that's not easy, okay? But one of the things both of them tried to do, which Badou Jack successfully did against a really skilled, very versatile, very competent, bigger fighter, was close the distance. We saw Rolly Romero close the distance as well against Ryan Garcia and successfully do it, right? Arnold Barbosa was not successful. Jose Ramirez was not successful, and Canelo was not successful at closing that distance, right? Jaime Mungia was successful at closing the distance against Bruno Suarez. So what I'm saying is that in boxing, you have to find a way to win, okay? It's a thinking man's game, all right? That's what makes boxing beautiful. So when I hear stupid people like Jim Lampley talking about this is a boring fight and blah, blah. Well, in your opinion, it's a boring fight. To other people, it's not boring. Okay? To you, it's boring. Okay? And it's up to you to make it interesting and to make the fans get involved, especially the fans who don't know better. Right? I don't know why they hired Jim Lampley for that. Turkey Al-Sheikh had him come back. The guy just makes boxing boring, and then everybody saying, "Oh, it was boring. This was a boring fest. This was a boring." What are you talking about? Rolly Romero versus Ryan Garcia was anything but boring. All right, you don't have to be a boxing purist. You just have to know what's going on in there. It's fun, especially if you bet. So if you put down money on shit ain't boring no more. I'll tell you why it was boring for some people. Their guy didn't win. Ryan Garcia didn't win. Jose Ramirez didn't beat down Devin Haney. That's why it was boring to some people. Canelo didn't knock out William Scull. That's why it was boring. We all know what it is. We all know what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Boxing's always been a racist sport. Okay? But if you're not a racist, and if you're not a fanboy out here, then it's not boring. You're going to enjoy it as a sport. It's that straightforward. We don't need to hide the truth. I'm what you need. I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace.